welcome to a new episode of 33 Fuel podcast. My name is Erika and I'm one of the co-founders of 33 Fuel Natural Sport Nutrition. Today I will be your host for this conversation with Susannah Gill. She is the female world record holder for the World Marathon Challenge. So for the people that don't know what is the World Marathon Challenge, it's 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. So the runner, they start to run on a glacier in Antarctica. They fly to Africa, Australia, Asia, South America and North America, crossing 16 time zones. So 7 marathons in 7 days with no resting day in between. In this conversation with Susannah, we will explore how she broke the record and also how she wrote a book about it. So the title of her book is Running Around the World, How I Ran 7 Marathons on 7 Continents in 7 Days. And this is an amazing guide for the people who want to break a record, the people that want to participate to the World Marathon Challenge. We will also explore how difficult it is to write a book while you are training and while you're having a normal office job. So we will speak with her about her writing routine and how she find a publisher. Because I'm sure there are a lot of athletes out there that they want to write a book, they don't know where to start from, or they want to publish and they don't know how to find a publisher. So in this conversation with Susannah, we will be able to get some key tools on what makes her an outstanding athlete and how she is able to inspire runners to believe that anything is possible. All of this fits completely into our mission at 33 Fuel Natural Sport Nutrition, which is providing athletes with the best possible tool to make the performance to the next level. And we do it sharing leading conversation and thoughtful content like this one with Susannah on our podcast, on our vlog, and on our social media. But we do also in-store at 33fuel.com with the finest natural sport nutrition for high performance. So if you need fueling, just go at 33fuel.com and experience the best natural sport nutrition on the planet. But first of all, enjoy this conversation with Susannah Gill. Welcome, Susannah. You made history. You are the new world record holder in the World Marathon Challenge, 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. So tell me more about it. How do you feel when you see your name as the world record holder? How is this sensation? I want to know.
Hi Erica, yeah, lovely to speak to you about this. It still feels a bit odd, really. I mean, I've got sort of used to it, but I was thinking actually earlier when I was thinking about what we were going to chat about. The phrase that I find the strangest when I've watched the sort of all the articles that have been written about it is when it says British runner Susannah Gill, which is weird because they're just 4 words and they're all completely true. I am British, I am a runner, and that's my name. But it makes me sound considerably more professional, I think, than I really feel, because at the end of the day, I'm just a person that enjoys running. I was going to run 1 marathon and didn't realise that I was going to run a whole host more, and certainly wasn't planning to run 7 on 7 continents in 7 days. So yeah, it still feels a little bit surreal sometimes, but now that I've had a bit of time to absorb and write a book about it, it sort of feels slightly more real. But I still very much feel just like the amateur runner that enjoys running, who happens to have just had the opportunity to take on an amazing challenge.
Yeah, I know this was an amazing challenge. It was a real challenge. So tell us more about where you start the race, how long is the race, a little bit more also the differentiality of the places.
Yeah, it's a very special and unique challenge. There isn't really one anywhere like it in the world. There's much longer challenges and you can run through jungles and things, but there isn't something really like this. And it was first done in 2003 by Sir Ranulph Fiennes. Although actually he didn't run in Antarctica, he ran in the Falkland Islands. But the concept of running 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. And for me personally, I loved it because it had a certain symmetry to it. And it's a very much a physical and a mental challenge, because not only have you got the 7 races, but you've got the aspect of how you look after yourself and repair yourself in between the races and mentally get yourself ready to race again. Because most of us, even if we enjoy marathons and triathlons, even Ironmen and all that, we tend to only do one race at a time, and then you can collapse in a bit of a heap and then prepare yourself for the next one. Whereas this challenge, you had to get on a plane and start thinking about the next race as you were recovering from the previous one. And I just kind of loved the idea of that. But I never really thought I would ever get around to doing it until I came across a company at the beginning of 2017 called World Marathon Challenge, who organised the race. And their race organizer, Richard Donovan, is just a brilliant organising logistics. He's also an exceptional runner himself. He's run across America. And he set this up so that people could have a go at doing it without having to try and do it on commercial flights and organise it yourself, which would be it's logistically possible, but you end up being very reliant on whether those planes are going to take off on time and having to organise your own races. So World Marathon Challenge as a company sort of makes it feasible in theory. And then I spent about 6 months at the beginning of 2018 sort of thinking about whether I should do it or not. I'd spoken to Richard and I'd filled out the forms, and he sort of went, yeah, there is a place for you. But 49% of me was going, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. You're an ordinary marathon runner. You shouldn't do something like this. What if you, I used to be so lame the day after a marathon. Yes, I could run an okay marathon, but the next morning, getting out of bed and getting to work and everything was pretty painful. So I was like, how on earth would I run 7 in a week? I can't possibly do that. But then 51% of me said, actually, if you don't have a go at it and do this thing, you're going to wake up when you're 70 years old and actually regret the fact you didn't give it a go. And that's probably the greatest thing I've learned in all of this, that if there's just a little bit of you that wants to take on a challenge, you should definitely do it, because actually I think we regret the things we don't do. And so that's really how I sort of came to finally, in the autumn of 2018, sign up to it and think, right, I'm going to have a go at this amazing challenge.
It's interesting your point of view, and just the regret, and you're absolutely right. You say, why not doing it until you are young, healthy, and you have the time to do it also, because I would imagine, first of all, if I'm not wrong, you start in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So that is very interesting, not from just the point of view of landscape. So you are running on a completely different surface compared to later on in the race, because each race in each continent, they have a different time zone, different temperature, because if I'm not wrong, the range of the temperature, they go from -10 to +25 or something like that.
Yeah.
So in reality, it's difficult to prepare also something like that. How did you train to different temperatures?
I'm someone who I train in the UK, so I'm used to getting wet, sometimes a bit hot in the summer, quite cold in the winter. I've run in a few hot places like Egypt and Bahrain and things, but nothing sort of long term. So I didn't do any specific temperature training, but in terms of Antarctica, excuse me, it was just a case of getting used to running on snow, which again, I'd never really done other than if I'd had to just do a very short run here and it happened to be a bit icy, which is something that I never wanted to do. It's a much slower rhythm on snow. You can't rush anything because your feet are moving around that much more. And the cold weather was just about having layers on. And then when we'd finish running as well, just getting out of the cold weather and into nice warm clothes. And then the toughest temperature change was actually between the first and second marathons, because we went to Cape Town overnight and ran there, and it was +30. It was a really, really hot, sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. And so, I had to then put loads of sun cream on, I'd only had a very quick shower, so I was still kind of sweaty from the day before, and just getting out, and I was just pouring sweat. And again, it was a case of just getting out of the sun once you'd run that marathon, having a shower and starting to refuel. And then the other 5 marathons were actually all in the evening. So although we were in Bahrain, even though we were in Dubai, it was nice. It was in the evening. It was quite cool and a bit clammy, but it was fine. And then so were the other temperatures. So they were quite even as temperatures go. So that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, but there is still a kind of also adaptation toward, the light, the way how to run, because one thing you run daytime and suddenly you start to run at nighttime, or in any case during the
Yeah.
evening. So I would imagine also that is a little bit of a adaptation on.
Yeah, it was the time zones were really interesting because the first 48 hours, your body tries to cling to what it thinks is a time zone. So whether you're in lunchtime or whatever. But once I got to Perth, which was the third race, and we'd had a good long flight from Cape Town over to Australia, I actually found my body stopped trying to work out what time zone it was in. It didn't. It was the first time in my life I just thought it doesn't actually matter what time of day it is. I'm either going to be sleeping and recovering, or stretching, or eating, or actually running a marathon. And whether it's lunchtime, evening, whatever food I'm eating, it doesn't really matter. It was quite interesting, and it's very much changed my way of view of travel as well. Normally, if you're on a plane, even if you're lucky enough to travel business or something, I'm normally in economy, but maybe premium economy. So even if you're in a nice flight, you think, actually, I kind of want to get to where I'm going. Whereas this time when I got on a plane, I was thinking, yes, I don't have to move anywhere for 12 hours or however long it was. And actually, you just sat enjoying being on the plane and being able to recover. So I've become a bit more of a relaxed traveller, I think, now, because I just think, right, if you're on a plane, you're relaxing, oh, I was up and stretching, or I was eating, I was doing everything I could to just be recovering in time for the next race. And actually, you didn't want to get there too quickly because you wanted as long as possible
Yeah, that's very
to
true.
rest and recover before you got to the next race.
And also the fact that you are experiencing actually crossing 16 time zone. This I totally understand that you basically don't look at anymore at your watch, because there is
No.
no point. It's not that you have a
No.
finial.
Yeah, and
But
a lot of our marathons, in Perth, we were running into the evening. Dubai, we started just before midnight. It was totally irrelevant as to what time of day it was. We were there to run a marathon, and you just got on and did it.
that it's and how about the jet lag?
I've never gone to Australia, so I've never done the full round the globe thing, but I've never found jet lag to be a massive problem for me when I've been to the US and China and things. My body I have quite a strong constitution, and basically, as long as I can eat and sleep, if I tell my body that it's 8 o'clock in the evening, regardless of what time it might think it is, and it's time to eat some food and go to bed, I'm quite lucky. I seem to be able to do that. And you might wake up a bit early or something. But sometimes I think people kind of allow themselves to feel jet lagged. Whereas if you force your body to actually just do what you know it needs to do, so keep eating, keep sleeping, keep really well hydrated, then I actually found it easier to cope with than I thought I would. But the joy of the challenge is you just don't know till you get there. Some people slept a lot more than others, and it was just a case of what you got used to. I mean, Mike Warden, who is the male world record holder, who was doing it for the second time, he found that even though it was the second time, so he sort of knew what he was getting into, he found he didn't actually sleep that well during the week, and much less than he had done the previous time. So you can't always control how your body responds, but you've just got to try and do what you know you need to do to keep yourself in one piece.
Yeah, and sleep deprivation could actually affect so much your race. So I would imagine, did you get stressed about that a little bit, or getting some bugs or anything that actually can stop your
I was
race?
quite pleased, a bit like you might hear that I've got a cold now. I had a cold at the New Year last year, which was 4 weeks before we left, which although was annoying, I thought actually that's really good timing, because if I've had a cold 4 weeks before I leave, I'm probably, law of averages means I won't get another bug. And then food wise and things, I ate quite a lot of vegetables. I didn't eat that much meat, and you just try and hope that you're not going to get a bug or anything like that. And so yeah, obviously lots of clean water available. The food on the plane was pretty good. Quite a lot of snacking on nuts and crisps and fruit and things. So yeah, just lucky that no one got sick actually. We all coped pretty well with everything.
You started from Antarctica, and
Yeah.
then from Antarctica, where do you go? Which is next step?
So we go back to Cape Town, so running there, which was lovely and hot and wonderful. And we were based there with the hotel, so I could have a shower. And I found a really great kind of American style diner afterwards that I had a veggie burger and chips. That was just such a highlight. When I was running and I was sweating so much, I was just thinking about salty chips and how good they were going to taste. And so that was great. And then a long old flight to Perth, we had a great Australian welcome from a local running club, and we were running up and down the river there. So that was a nice flat course. At Dubai, we were running for the fourth race. We were running along the beach, which was pretty cool at night. So you had like the lights of all the villas and the waves kind of lapping up, which was quite peaceful. And I'd been to Dubai before, so that kind of felt quite nice and familiar. Then we flew on to Madrid, which was a sort of short 8 hour flight. And of course, everyone thinks Spain is hot, but actually it was really quite cold that evening, that February evening. But being a British runner, I stuck in my vest and shorts, and I probably should have worn a few more clothes. And that was on a race circuit, which was pretty hilly. And that was a tough course, and on a cold night, that was hard, and had a particularly fierce race that evening with another competitor. And then, complete contrast, we flew down to Santiago in Chile and ran around a park in the nice bit of the city there, which was kind of warm and very smart. Not the fastest course, because we were twisting and turning around this park, which had this one hill that we had to go up every lap, which when you're on tired legs, doing lots of twists and turns and changes of direction was quite hard work. And then flew on to Miami to finish, which was brilliant because the race was organised by the guys that organised marathons. So they're just superbly organised. And we were running up and down South Beach, which was lovely because it was on concrete and a little bit of the wooden boardwalk that they have, and nice and flat. So that was the sort of perfect way to finish. So each course was supposedly obviously the same as 26.2 miles and relatively flat. Each course did have hills, but they were all nicely different in my head. They feel like they were completely different races and all very, very distinct from each other.
Yeah, definitely they were very different, and probably also there were different kind of challenges because, as you said, Antarctica, definitely there is the ice, but then you have also to run on the sand, so it's a completely different kind of running, a different kind of training, I would imagine. How long did it take you to train?
So I worked with the fellow author of my book, a man called Mike Antonides, who set up the running school, because I'd been to the running school. I'd got injured in 2015, classic runner's knee, had to have my cartilage operated on. So many people have had that. And I came back to running, and I just wasn't running very well. I knew it, and I was taking the odd tumble, and you just, you need to get someone to help you. And I saw the running school advertised, and I went there, and they look at how you run, and they basically just get you running in a much better, much more solid way. And I thought, well, if I'm going to train for this, I'm going to need someone who knows what they're doing, because I mean, I'm a qualified personal trainer, but that doesn't mean I know how to get myself fit for a special challenge. But I also needed someone that was going to hold me accountable, because I knew it was going to be the hardest training I'd ever done. And if I was just going to set myself the challenges, it was never going to work. I needed someone else to say, right, that's the program that you need to do. Those are the sessions that you have to do. And so I spoke to Mike, and we agreed that we'd work together on it. I think he thought I was a bit mad. I'm not sure that he knew that he'd never coached anyone to do this challenge, but he thought it would be quite a fun thing to do. And so we ended up working together, focusing solely on this from beginning of September to the end of January when I went. So it was like 5 months really that we did this, and he set a weekly program, and it was quite different from what I'd done before as a sort of recreational marathon runner. I'd done all the long runs at weekends that we do, but I'd never really done any interval training. My idea of interval training was going a little bit faster at the end of a run. It wasn't doing 20 times 90-second sprints with 90 seconds in between, or 8 times 4-minute pieces of work, which they're the hardest ones I find. And also a lot of races and a lot more structure than I'd done before. And so that actually was invaluable. And that was half the reason I wanted to write the book, was that how we did it is to me the most sort of interesting thing, as well as the races that I actually did themselves. Because I went from probably 80% fit, probably right up to, you can always get fitter, but right up to 90 plus, 95% fit, because of the program that Mike put me on and what we learned doing it. And it was just a fascinating process to actually, rather than just think, oh, I'll go out for a run, it was to go out and do a specific run as part of a training program, and do all the sprint intervals and all the things I hadn't done before in a much more structured way. And you realise actually that's how you get fit. It was a little insight into a little bit of what it must be like to be a professional athlete, where you're doing something very focused every day of the week for, your entire Olympic cycle or whatever it might be. It's hard work, but it's very satisfying because you can make big changes to how fit you are over a relatively short period of time.
Did you add any rest day in between the week? Because of course these are 7 marathons without any rest day. So did you add in your simulation, on your
Yeah.
program. Did you have any simulation, no rest day during the training?
Yeah, we'd have an easy day on Monday where if I'd done long runs on Saturday and Sunday, like Monday would be like a spin class or something easier. And then actually the big test that we did before I went away was I ran 6 marathons in 9 days before Christmas, which was like a simulation of what it was going to feel like. But at the same time, by doing it over 9 days, it gave you some recovery just to see how I was feeling. So I ran 2 marathons 2 days in a row, then had a day off, then ran 2 more, then had 2 days off and ran 2 more. And they were a mixture of races and runs by myself. And that went really well. I finished the last one in 3 hours 35. So I thought, that's great. They were very consistent. I was still in one piece. And that's so, yeah, we went and did a proper sort of rehearsal of what it was going to feel like to run that often and that far.
Fantastic. And so, how did you avoid the injuries? Because training so heavily and with not so many rest days in reality, how did you avoid the injuries?
Touch wood. Every runner hates talking about injuries, don't they? Because the moment you say, "Oh, this is the secret," then of course we go and get injured. But I'm quite lucky. I'm built. I'm quite tough, anyway. But really, I mean, it's the thing we all hate. It's that bit of strength work that we all have to do. All those boring exercises with weights to strengthen up our glutes and my hamstrings, the back of my legs, and make sure they were doing all the hard work as opposed to my hips, knees, ankles, any of the joints. And then if I came in and anything was a bit sore, when I had my weekly session with Mike at the running school, he'd change everything. So if I said my right hamstring was a bit sore, or actually it was normally my left hamstring, we'd do some exercises just to look after that. So it was kind of respond to what you need to and listen to your body. But at no point did I ever miss a training session. I would just do it slightly lighter if anything was hurting, or I got a cold or something. I had one cold during training. But otherwise, it was like make sure that you do every session so you hold yourself accountable for doing it, but just listen to your body at times that you need to.
You were doing your program was some with Mike and some without, basically. Some you just had to do. How many times a week you were working with him, directly with him?
I do one session a week, so normally one evening a week. Sometimes possibly an early morning if that was easier. But then we were also in constant contact. So when I was doing when I was doing my long runs at the weekend, particularly if they were by myself, it was if you're going out. I mean, I like to go out for a run, but I'd probably choose to go out for about 2 hours on a Saturday morning. But I was going out for 4 hours. And actually knowing that I had to text Mike afterwards and let him know how it had gone and kind of hold you accountable again. Like, I am going to get out the door and I am going to run for 4 hours because I then have to let Mike know how it goes. And equally, if I got up in the morning on Sunday early and went and did a race somewhere, which I quite like to do because it's a bit more exciting than running by myself, let Mike know how it went. And just having that kind of partnership really helped. I think if you're just doing it by yourself, then it's probably not as fun. But knowing I was working with someone who knew what they were doing, and it was a sort of bit of an adventure for both of us, made it great fun.
That's very nice. So this is more the physical part, but what about the brain? Because of course you need a lot of focus, and probably in your mind quitting did cross your mind or not at all? And how did you train your brain for focus?
Yeah, I'm quite lucky in that I'm someone who's very, very determined. When I say I'm going to do something, I pretty much am going to do it unless something comes up that means I absolutely can't do it. But there was a couple of things that we worked on. The first one was that on my first session as part of the training program, before I even got on a treadmill or anything, Mike gave me a couple of books which were just brilliant. One of them is called The Art of Mental Training, which is all about like what champions have and what you tell yourself to keep yourself going when things get tough, which is you have to create a mantra, that thing that you just keep saying to yourself, and that keeps you going. The other one is a great book by Angela Duckworth called Grit, which is all about determination and grit as opposed to talent, and just fantastic books. And there were a few others as well. There's one called Brain Rules about how the brain works, just so you understand why you think the things you do. And then I think if you understand that, it's much easier to cope with it. And also Mike gave some very honest feedback as well. He said, look, I'm going to coach you to run the first 4 marathons, but marathons 5, 6, and 7 are up here in your head. You don't know how you're going to feel at that point. I can't tell you how you're going to feel, but you're going to have to just deal with that when you get to that point. So when I'd finished the race in Dubai at race number 4, I sort of, on the way to the airport, even though I was exhausted and looking forward to going to sleep, I actually just sort of pressed a big sort of reset button in my head, as if everything I'd done before didn't matter. And it was like, right, the next 3 marathons are the only thing that matters, right? I start again now. And that really, really helps. So, because otherwise, if you think about all 7 races in one big go, it all seems a bit too much. Whereas if you can break it down and say, right, you get through the first 4, then you press reset, and then you get through the next 3, that makes it a bit more manageable. And so I thought about that quite often. And so when we set off in Madrid for race 5, I was like, right, this is where the kind of the proper race really starts now. This is the real step into the unknown. And both of those mental strategies really worked. In terms of learning about myself and what I was going to say to myself when it got tough, and realizing how the week was going to pan out. And it was strange. We obviously did get it right, because during the week, although it was a completely new experience, nothing felt new. It felt like we'd planned all of this. And I was like, right, this is how I'm going to feel in race 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. And there was nothing that sort of, when I look back and went, would I do anything differently? There's a few tiny things, but on the whole, the week went how I would wanted it to have gone, which I think if you're planning for any type of challenge, that's the best thing you can hope, is that it goes how you planned it to go.
Have you done a lot of visualization? Because one of the techniques is also visualization. Mm-hmm. Have you done it? It was part of your mental program?
I did. We didn't do any specifically. I think I probably did it as I lay and my head hit the pillow each night, and I'd be trying to imagine what it was like, although I was falling asleep so quickly because I was so tired. It probably lasted about 5 seconds before I was asleep. But yeah, I tried to, look at the map of each place we were going to and just try and think what it was going to be like to do the 15 laps in Dubai or whatever it was, and try where I'd been to the places before. So I'd been to Cape Town, I'd been to Dubai, like just think about them, and so that things weren't completely new and startling to you. And I've done loads of marathons, and at the end of the day, it's just another race. Once you put that number on and you've got your trainers on and you're ready to race, you're in race mode. And whether you're in Cape Town or Madrid or Perth, it shouldn't really matter. You're there to race and put in the best physical performance that you can put in. And that's what I did from the start line of each race.
So when did you realize that your brain and your body were ready to go? When it was that moment?
I think once we'd done that dress rehearsal with the 6 marathons in 9 days at Christmas, that was about 4 weeks before we left. I thought I'm probably there. That was the big practice, and I thought I'm probably not gonna get that much fitter. And the next month was actually about sort of holding the fitness and not getting injured or having any issues. But I guess I didn't ever really feel ready. It just gets to a point where it's a bit like revising for an exam. You don't assume that you know everything, but you kind of go, well, I've done enough revision now. I'm just going to have a go at the exam and see how it goes. That's probably how I felt on the flying out to Cape Town as getting ready for the week ahead.
Yeah, there is an interesting point of this race that, if I'm not wrong, I was checking on the entry fees for this race, and it's terrific expensive. Is 39,000 euros. That does include the flight from your homeland to Cape Town, the accommodation in Cape Town. It does include your flight back home, basically from Miami. So that actually it's a lot of money to pay for a race. Why you have decided to invest so much money on a race, or you were sponsored?
No, I saved up. I'm not really a holiday person. I don't really go on holidays for the sake of lying on sun lounges and stuff. So I'd saved up over a few years, and I was lucky enough to be able to do it. And I did raise money for a wonderful charity called Sports Aid that looks after young athletes, because I wanted to do that. But for me, it was just a once in a lifetime, amazing, special opportunity. And actually, it is really expensive. But in terms of what you get for the whole week, it actually compares quite well compared to, for example, if you just go and do a single marathon in Antarctica or somewhere, that costs about a third as much as the whole scheme that we did. So it's a very special thing to do, and the mixture of people that ran on it were just wonderful. So I mean, I was one of only, I think, 2 British runners. There were lots of Americans, but also lots of South Americans, Chinese runners, Australian, and people just all around the world who'd all either been sponsored or saved up to do it. And we were all just sort of bonded by the love of running and this special challenge. And that made it really amazing. And the wonderful thing is we discussed so much that week, but I couldn't tell you what anyone did for a job because we didn't discuss the sort of boring things that you normally discuss in life. We just discussed running and where we'd done marathons and how we were feeling, and but lending each other bits of kit if we needed to, and just sort of looking out for each other, really. It was a kind of a very, very special bubble of a week, if you like, in that sense, meeting people that you'd never have met in any other walk of life, taking on something that, you know, I'll never do again. If other people are lucky enough to go and do it for a second time, amazing. But for me, it was just the once in a lifetime experience.
No, I would imagine it is a fantastic experience, and also there is so much to organize. So I totally understand the reason why it's so expensive. But do you think that paying so much money for an event, for a challenge, did help you to focus on pushing to the limits? Did you give an extra reason why you wanted to be the best of the best or do it the best that you can do?
Yeah, I didn't set out to break the world record. I just set out to run the best 7 marathons that I could, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I was able to do. But that's like anything in life. If I'm going to go and do something, I like to do it absolutely the best that I can do. And so yeah, I just applied that to this. I was a bit nervous when I started training and I couldn't quite get my head around how I was going to run 7 marathons. I thought, well, I can't come back having only run 4 of them. So it was like, at first it was about making sure that I was fit enough and strong enough to just get through 7. And then it was about saying, right, well, how can these be the best 7 marathons that I can run? And that's what the training program did. We got to a point where I was in the shape to run the best 7 races I could.
So there was some moments where where you were saying, oh my God, I invested so much on my saving and maybe I can't do it. Did it come across in your mind, or you were so
I was probably like that for the first 2 months of training. So last September and October, in 2018, I definitely thought, I don't quite know why I've signed up to this, because I just don't know how I'm going to do it. But as things got better, sort of halfway through the 5 months, I thought, actually, I'm getting fitter, I'm getting stronger. Once I'd done the 6 marathons in 9 days, I thought, I think I'm actually going to be able to get to the end of this, as long as, you know, all things being equal, I stay in one piece. There's no freak injuries or anything. But yeah, when I committed to it initially in the summer of 2018, and before I started training, I definitely wondered what I was thinking. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I didn't even tell my family for 2 or 3 months, because I thought, I felt so embarrassed that if I took on a challenge and couldn't do it, then it would be awful. So I didn't really tell anyone until, 1, I felt a little bit more confident, and 2, I was raising some money for Sports Aid. So you can't raise any money if you don't tell people what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So that helped me admit to the sort of mad challenge that I was taking on.
That's fantastic, because actually one of the techniques that I push you to do it more is like, say to everyone, so that it means that you have to do it. You can't pull back. In your case,
you still have to get to a certain point of confidence to want to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about the mental side. And did you get any prize because you win it?
Yeah, I got a fabulous glass trophy, which is very heavy and sat on the mantelpiece at home. Had to bring that back through airport security at Miami, which was a bit interesting. They wondered what the hell it was. But yeah, and then we get medals for each one that you finish, and you get a very special medal as someone who's run 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents, which is part of a sort of club that we're all part of, which less than 400 people have done it. Less than 100 women, so about 300 men and 100 women. So it's kind of part of being a special club that doesn't matter what speed you did it in. If you ran those 7 marathons on the 7 continents in 168 hours, then you're part of the World Marathon Challenge Club.
You also have the opportunity to meet the other people. There is a way how you can socialize with them.
Yeah, I mean we're all in contact on on social media, and yeah, we all feel very much connected to each other. And those people that have done it will often go and do other races as well. So Richard Donovan also organises the North Pole Marathon, the Volcano Marathon in South America.
Yes.
Something two very different ones, as well as World Marathon Challenge. So if I save up, I might try and do. I'm not going to go to do the North Pole Marathon because I didn't like running on snow enough to do that. But I might head somewhere hot somewhere. I prefer the heat. So yeah, we all feel very much kind of bonded. And I'm in fact going to run Boston Marathon in April with the woman who set the previous world record before me. So you make these lovely kind of international connections of people that run, and it's kind of a lovely thing because if it wasn't for running, you'd never know any of these people.
Yeah, and as you and I speaking with you, I realized straight away you guys have something extra, and that extra is your power inside your mind and the confidence that it allows you to break these challenges. You just something different. So it's kind of probably interesting for you to meet up with someone that he was able to break a world record. From the point of view, is probably a little bit different from just a runner.
Yeah, but I think it was great because everyone that was doing it because and it was their own personal challenge. So, it didn't matter what time you were running. There was someone running it with type 1 diabetes. The oldest man set a new world record, Dan Little from the US. He ran it at age 76. I mean, that's just phenomenal. So it didn't really matter whether you were finishing in the faster times or the slower times. It was a personal challenge for everyone. Everyone had trained really hard, fitting it into life, and we were all just there for a big adventure.
That's amazing. So which kind of lesson did you use from other races to achieve this one?
The put one foot in front of the other lesson. No, it's funny. It was slightly different from normal races because I normally like to, whatever sort of race I'm doing, kind of tend to do them as fast as I can. But of course, if you do that, you are sore at the end of a race, and you had to have a slightly different attitude, particularly in the first half of the week, where it was about, okay, just run, make sure you're kind of, I thought about it as running within myself. So at no point was I pushing myself right to the limit of what was possible, because you're conscious that you've got to then prepare yourself for the next race. So, the second race that I did in Cape Town, I ran it in 3 hours 21, which was kind of, I could probably, on a road race like that, have gone maybe 10, 15 minutes faster. But you don't want to do that because you're going to be that much more tired and sore the next day. So you want to be nice and consistent. And in fact, the next race in Perth was, I think that's 3 hours 24. So it's very, very similar. I was 3 hours 26 in Dubai as well. So you're trying to run very equally. Although that plan did go a little bit off the wall in Madrid because Christina, a Danish runner, she was sort of just behind me in some of the early races. She'd won in Antarctica and was just behind me in the following 3 races. And then we got to Madrid and she went off really, really fast. And it was a kind of epic evening of running because we ended up, our finishing times were 3 hours 11 for me, and she was only 13 seconds behind and just over 3 hours 12.
Wow.
And at no point was I planning to run the 5th race the quickest. But so sometimes, as much as you plan to run your equal races and look after yourself, once you get into competition, if you need to run really fast, you just have to go and run really fast. Which then meant, of course, for the 6th race in Santiago, I was a bit tired, and that was 3:37. That was pretty slow in comparison to what I'd done the night before in Madrid. But you can't ask your body just to keep delivering 100% the whole time. That's normally why most people do one race at a time, and certainly why I'm going back to do one race at a time now. So it was just a good example of what a special challenge it was to be able to put yourself back together again and keep running one marathon after another.
Amazing. So let's speak for another kind of challenge that you had, and I think this was also another challenge, your book. So tell me more about your book, because James, that he works with us at 33 Fuel, he just said, oh, there is a new book and this is fantastic. So I got really excited about you. Speaking also with James, he said, I want her on the podcast. Let's see if we can have a podcast and blah, blah, blah. And here we go. You are here. So very exciting about that. But your book running around the world, how and when you decided to write the book, did someone inspire you?
It was, I suppose I got Mike to blame or thank. When we were texting each other in Miami after we'd finished, we were thinking, Mike was like, well, you know, you need to recover and then discuss what's next. So, you know, because as a runner, we all like to know what our next race is going to be. No one likes to sit and go, oh, well, I've done a race, but I haven't got a plan now for the next one. And he goes, and why don't we write a book about what we've done? And I was like, well, I suppose, yeah, we could. There's only been one other book about World Marathon Challenge, by a guy called David Gethin back in 2015. And what I wanted to do was write about very much the subline to the book, which is it's running around the world, but it's how I ran 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days, with the bit of how, because I didn't want to write a book and just go, aren't I great for running these 7 marathons, but actually just show people how I did it, how you can take a very ordinary runner that I still am and get them super fit and ready to do something that most people consider really, really difficult. And so the first half of the book is all about the training and what we did. So that if anyone wants to go and do something, it might not be running 7 marathons, whatever challenge it is, hopefully it can kind of show there is always a way you can do it. Your training program would be different to what I did, but there is a way you can take yourself from one physical and mental state and improve yourself and get yourself ready to take on something which at the beginning you think, I could never do that. And then the second half of the book is the story of each race and obviously the exciting conclusion at the end. But I hope it's a book that, you know, every runner, whether you're a park runner on a Saturday through to, you know, someone that takes marathons quite seriously or something, will get something from and find it interesting. It was certainly a different challenge to spend my weekends at the beginning of the year sat writing for 5 or 6 hours a day on Saturdays and Sundays. But it was great, and I worked with a lovely team at Rethink who've put it all together with me. And it's got kind of a lot of Mike's input as well, his expertise, and interestingly as well, with all of the text messages that we shared while we were racing, because actually having Mike at the end of the phone, we were just sharing thoughts and ideas, and that was really helpful for me to be able to bounce ideas off him. So, for example, before the last race, I suddenly got very nervous because you get very close to completing your dream and you don't realise how, you know, I was like, God, I suddenly feel really weird. And it was Mike that had to tell me, it's because you're really nervous now, but you got to channel that into your legs and everything. So I hope it's an interesting read and something that's a bit different to maybe other books that are out there.
So how long did it take to write it?
I wrote most of the copy between February and May, and then spent the sort of autumn putting it all together. And then we published it in December.
Wow. So writing a book is not easy. And especially because, as you said, you wanted to inspire, and you wanted to inspire, you wanted to give something. You needed to give some priority in your life. So which kind of priority you gave to the book compares to training, a job, and writing?
I think I probably took on a similar approach to how I did the training, in that it was going to have a beginning, middle, and end. So I knew that when I was training for the World Marathon Challenge, it was sort of 5 months, and it was a very focused period. It was a bit like that with the book. Mike and I agreed that if we started writing it in February, we wanted to get it out by Christmas, ahead of this year's World Marathon Challenge, and because that was a good deadline. And so we just about made it with a couple of weeks to spare. So I think people always say, well, how do you find the time to do things? I always think you find the time to do the things that you want to do. And actually, I always find the time, for example, I enjoy watching a couple of cookery programs a week or whatever, MasterChef or Bake Off. Well, if I find the time to watch them, I can probably find the time to write a book. And you just have to be very committed. I was probably quite boring on those weekends. I wasn't exactly going out and seeing friends and stuff, because at the end of the day, if you're going to sit and write, you just need to sit in peace and write. And I also found I couldn't do it in the week with work, because in the daytime, you're obviously busy working, and I go, oh, well, maybe I'll do a couple of hours in the evening, but you're too tired. You just, by 10, 11 o'clock at night, you just need to go to bed, really. So I found that if I just focused on it on the Sunday and the Saturday and Sunday.
So Saturday and Sunday is basically were your days of writing.
Yeah.
So the process of what it was, you wake up in the morning, you just dedicate all the entire day. How was your writing process?
I'd break it up. I'd get up and do probably a couple of hours, which is really good because you're kind of fresh Then I'd go for a little leg stretch just before lunch, like not a long run at all, but just to clear my head. And then I also learnt the key art to writing in the afternoon is to not eat a big lunch. Because if you eat a big lunch, you get really sleepy. And you sit there and you're trying to write and you're like, oh my God, I've eaten too many carbohydrates. So I learnt the lesson of like not eating a big lunch and just having a bit of chocolate or something in the afternoon to keep you going. Then you can go a good 4 hours in the afternoon, and then probably do a light gym session in the evening, and then you feel really tired and you want to go to bed, but you can get your sort of 6 hours of writing in. And if you turn off social media and you turn off your emails, you can actually get quite a lot of writing done.
Yeah.
And then it was quite busy. I was very busy at work in October when we were just finishing the editing. So I had a slightly crazy weekend where the publishers had done the final edit of the book, but I needed to go through it and okay it and make a few more tweaks. But I was also running Chicago Marathon. And so I spent the 8-hour flight from London to Chicago, just literally sat while everyone else on the plane like was watching a film or having a sleep. I just sat editing the book for 8 hours, and we landed in Chicago and I'd sort of just about finished it. So it was the most productive flight I've ever had. Not sure I'd want to do that every single time I do it, but it just shows that when you need to fit something in and you need to get something done, you will carve out time and make it happen, as I'm sure a lot of people that do training and do races are familiar with.
Oh, fantastic. You spoke also about a publisher. So one of the questions I would like to ask you is, where do you find your publisher? How was difficult the process? Because probably there are other athletes, they wanted to write a book, but they don't know exactly which is the process to find a publisher or to self-publish.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Rethink is a sort of hybrid way of doing it, the company that I work with, and I'd really recommend them to anyone. I mean, the days when you used to go to a sort of traditional publishing house and try and get a contract doesn't really, I mean, if you're a big name or you're a full-time author, then that might be what you want to do. But most of us who are just writing a book on the side about something specific that we might have knowledge of and want to share, the Rethink or other companies that do it are brilliant, because you sign a very simple contract for a relatively small amount of money, and then you have to sit and write the manuscript. No one can do that for you. There's no shortcut to that. But you write the sort of 50,000-60,000 words that are the basic manuscripts, and then they take it and edit it. And you supply pictures, or you work out if you need any tables or imagery, anything else. And then you have the fun bit of working with their design team on how it's all going to look and come together. And so I work with them from the end of August right through to publishing at the beginning of December. So it was just over 3 months. And it was a really good process. And that's the route to take, I would recommend for anyone. And also, you're not committing yourself to book sales. So my book's available on Amazon in hard form or Kindle, and if it sells lots of books, great. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to different events, like I'm off to the running show at the end of January where people will be buying the book, but I haven't signed myself up to any commitment to have to sell hundreds of thousands of copies, because I didn't write the book to make money from per se. I just wrote it because I wanted to share what I'd done and hope it would be interesting to other people. And I think that's the route a lot of people now take, and there's definitely a way you can do it.
Well, it's amazing. 3 months to edit everything. It's really a short time, because you have to consider, the graphics, everything, the covers, the overall. It's so much to work. So it's fantastic, fantastic team. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, as you're writing a book, you don't read many books. You spend the entire time doing something on your own book. So it's quite nice now that I'm not writing a book, that I can go back and read the pile of books that have piled up this year that I haven't read.
So how was it to write also with a co-writer? Because as you said, Mike Antoniades, if I'm not wrong, Mike Antoniades, he was also a co-writer. So how was to write together?
We did it separately. So my bit is the sort of main bit, but he then wrote his input was both the training program. He's then done updates in the first half of the book about how each 4-week block was going, and then we've got his text messages, and so the only really joint bit that we wrote together was the introduction. So actually, it kind of all fitted together quite well. I would then with the publishers, I would take along what edits they had made, and we just sit after we'd done my running session, we just sit and go through things. So a bit like the partnership worked quite well when we were training. It worked equally well in writing the book as well.
Fantastic! I tell you what, congratulations first of all to be a record holder. That it's fantastic. And second, to write a book about it. Thanks so much for this contribution that you are giving to the to runners. So if people they wanted to find you on social media, where they can find you, where they can follow you?
So I'm on Twitter. My personal handle is at the Iron Lady Runs, which is an old name that goes back to when I worked for a company called Betfair, and they were like, well, you're like the Iron Lady when I started doing challenges. So yeah, the Iron Lady Runs. I'm also a personal trainer, and my personal training handle is Be Amazing PT. So my sort of thing is that I think everyone can be amazing in their own way and doing their own challenge, whatever it might be. And then I'm also on Instagram as at Be Amazing _personal training as well. So and I also have a website, wecanbeamazing.com, where I try and do regular blogs and let people know what I'm up to. And you can get in contact with me through there as well if anyone wants to know a bit more or has any other questions that aren't covered in the book or anything else I've written on the blog.
So what's next? And I bet everyone they ask you the same question. What's next? There is something, or you're just recovering?
No, I had a nice quiet end of the year where I didn't do any racing for a couple of months just because it was quite nice to not always have the alarm clock going off at the weekend. But no, very much focused now on this year. And as ever, as most runners, I want to be able to get a bit faster. So I'm gearing up. I'm doing a few races before, but I'm mainly gearing up for April. And I'm going to go and run Manchester at the beginning of April, which is a fantastic marathon, lovely flat course, really good organisation. So my PB there was 2:56 last year, so I'm going to see if I can go faster, but see what the legs have got in them. And then I'm heading off at the end of the month to run Boston, which I haven't run before, which is obviously a very special marathon, one of the world majors, very kind of serious. And then 6 days later, I'll be running London, which will be my 12th London marathon.
Wow!
So that's quite a busy week, and I love London. I absolutely love it. So the atmosphere is incredible. It's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, and then after that, I think in the summer I'll go and do some more ultra marathons, and go and enjoy running some longer distances, hopefully in the sunshine when it's in those nice summer months, and see what I feel like doing. I like sort of 100k, sometimes 100-mile races. You can go on a proper adventure and enjoy the countryside, and you're not racing the clock quite as much as when you do a road marathon, and it's all about what time you finish in. You can just go and run all day, and it's good. And I like the challenge of getting your nutrition right and enjoying. You have periods where you feel awful and then you feel better, and you have to learn to sort of how to deal with all of that. So they're quite good fun, I think, for the summer.
Well, it's a lot of, again, a brain focus, try to, as you said, listen to your body. And that is one of the ultra, probably is the key point, is listen also to your body. Because if you listen just to your head, the body at one point can collapse, no, in a way.
Yeah, and you need to have, what I enjoy about ultras is you need to have that discipline. If you're feeling bad, you have to go through that checklist of like, why am I feeling bad? And often in my case, sometimes I don't eat enough. You're like, right, eat some food, even though you don't feel like you need to eat food. And then suddenly half an hour later, you think you feel much better. Or I get this habit where I realise I haven't drunk anything for an hour. Oh no, drink more water. And so it's having that discipline to look after yourself over that long period of time. Yeah. And when you get it right and you run really well, it's so satisfying.
Fantastic. So thanks so much to be a guest here at our podcast. Really enjoyed to speak with you. It was really nice. And congratulations for the book. And we will put also on the show notes a link also for the link with Amazon and all the links for your book. So if people they wanted to read it, they will have the easy opportunity to click and just go straight. So enjoy your next adventures, and thanks so much to be a guest.
Brilliant. Thank you, Erica. Lovely chatting to you.
I really enjoy having Susannah on the show, and thanks to James at 33 Fuel to have contacted Susannah so we could have her today. I hope you enjoy it as I did recording the episode. So if you want to check out Susannah's book, just check out the link on the show notes below. where you can find also the links about 33 Fuel website and social media. So if you have any question for Susannah, or you have any question for us, or you wanted to share any opinion, please get in touch with us using the links below in the show notes. So thanks so much for joining us and stay tuned.